Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
Long Boys Blues, 1975. A YouTuber on the rise. Reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends used to bug him. Long Boys Blues, 1975.
Hey, Longest Post 1975. Yeah, I mean, you have to be living under a rock right now to not notice that, Sir Roger Moore passed away yesterday. And I've done videos like this before where I talk about, the loss of a celebrity. And you always get flack from, well, individuals and trolls, and I guess just people trying to start spats who don't understand it, saying like, what did this, you never met this person, blah, 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 blah. Why are you saying this? Do you think his family even knows, or his family even cares? And I've always thought this and said it, which is, it comes to any sort of, person that becomes a role model or we look up to, that any individual professional in any sort of, profession that you fall in love with, you invest such a large part of your life into, I should say, will leave a lasting impression on you, will create memories, and then sometimes events will happen within your life that coincide with watching sort of their appearances in movie or, on TV or things like that, or reading a book or a magazine article, something like that. And, and they coincide. So you create these memories, and that helps you form an attachment to it. So yeah, maybe his family won't ever know anything about, me wanting to talk about him as a, Bond. But he's touched my life. He's touched other lives. So that doesn't mean that he's a nothing to us, or there is no relevance, to him, to us when it comes to a relationship, if that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. But I have to say, right now, bear with me when I say this. First of all, Roger Moore's Bond was such a massive part of my childhood. I think it's safe to say that if you grew up in the United Kingdom, I don't know how it fares in the rest of the world. I mean, this country has more, bank holidays than you can shake a stick at, but there was some sort of precedent, whether you could argue it was TV companies being, I don't know, lazy or stuff like that. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as such a fond part of my childhood that you could guarantee that on, on Easter, Good Friday, Easter Sunday, and the bank holiday Monday following after that. You could argue on Christmas Day, Boxing Day. You could definitely argue on every single bank holiday, to some degree in this country, that they would play a Bond movie. And this is where, my love for Roger Moore's Bond, was growing up, and that even though you could rent, well, no, when we first had a VCR, we had a Betamax, and you couldn't rent for that initially. And it's, my dad had a Philips 2000 or something, used to take movies off TV, and more often than not, they would be Bond movies, to play for myself and my twin, my older brother, and keep us quiet, like a babysitter, if you will. But I think my age, I'm 41, that, our experience of Bond movies, where you didn't need to rent them, you didn't need to go to a store or anything like that, because it was guaranteed that it would be on these days, or these, dates, calendar events, I should say, I mentioned. And yeah, and that's where, where my entire generation grew up, watching Bond movies, loving them. My dad recorded them so we could, keep them and watch them whenever we wanted to. And Roger Moore is not my favourite Bond, but bear with me when I say this, because that's not to be disrespectful. But based on when I was born and when I grew up, and his canon, he made 7 Bond movies, didn't I? He's the longest running Bond to date. He's my Bond. It's like everyone has a doctor, don't they? Their doctor, whether it's their favourite doctor or not, it's their doctor based upon, I'm slipping down here, when they grew up, or when they were born and when they grew up. And Roger Moore was, he was my Bond for that period. And, he was completely different to Sean Connery. But that was good. That's how you push a franchise, in the right direction. Change is good. He was incredibly debonair, suave. His accent was something to die for. And, people think back on most of Roger Moore movies and think they were kind of more a little bit played for comedy, than they were, serious, which is not entirely true because you've only got to look at The Spy Who Loved Me, The Man with the Golden Gun. There were, there were some seriously epic and stern, serious performances by Roger Moore as Bond, a darker, more sinister Bond. But he is a part of my childhood, and like I said, maybe it was lazy programming on the part of TV, channels and companies like that. But I love that about my youth. That I have so many memories attached to specifically Roger Moore, again because he's the Bond for my age period. That I just love. Great moments. I mean, you've only got to look at the Spy Who Loved Me, which is my favourite Roger Moore Bond movie, ever, and is serious in tone. It has the Lotus Esprit in it, which was, is my favourite Bond car ever. The aquatic submarine. I mean, the story behind how Lotus got that to be a Bond car within itself. Look it up. I'm not going to go into it here. It's absolutely fantastic. But that was probably one of the Bond movies that made me fall in love with Roger Moore, because of the massive gunfight during it, taking apart the nuclear. Dare I say spoilers? No, because come on, taking apart the nuclear weapon, the nuclear missile to use the detonator to blow up, the solid, bulletproof door and stuff like that. Again, the car, the over the top Bond villain where the base would rise out the sea, the oil tankers that would swallow up US submarines and stuff like that. Absolutely fantastic. One thing that I'm a little bit sad of, but then if you look at the times that these movies were released, is the only Roger Moore movie I got to see in the cinema was A View to a Kill, the epic Duran Duran intro. And I loved it. And that's probably my second favourite, Roger Moore movie. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. He delivered comedy in the movies that you could argue weren't as serious, the ones where he was a really more dark and sinister Bond. He definitely had a brilliant, a comedic sense of timing and stuff like that, and the eyebrow thing and everything. And again, just so utterly debonair. And also, yes, I am aware that Roger Moore's in other movies and stuff like that. And also, he was my favourite Saint, and he was in The Persuaders, and with Tony Curtis. Just absolutely, utterly fantastic. But just, it's weird now that he's passed away. It's just thinking about it. I have an attachment to almost every year of my life growing up to a Bond movie. It's just insane. It's like Octopussy. That's 1983, the only Bond movie to come out where the Never Say Never Again, the Sean Connery one, which was basically the rights retained to Thunderball by another company going way back in the day, and so they got to make an unofficial Bond movie that's still kind of, I think it's considered canon, but it's not considered in the the Cubby Broccoli movies. But I just remember as a kid that blew my mind. But just hang on a minute, we got Sean Connery and Roger Moore making a movie in the same year. And one of my memories of that movie, when it was Octopussy, which I think is absolutely fantastic and I love, is I couldn't get my head around it as a kid. And I remember, because you got to remember, so young, 1983, I was 7, I think, and I remember Radio Times, which was obviously a TV guide in this country at the time, and it ran this special feature for Octopussy called 21 Years of Bond. And so me and my brothers were just like, because Bond is ageless, you don't understand age and the growth. The aging process of an individual in the real world then when you're a child. And I just remember, seeing the adverts on TV saying, this week's TV Times honours 21 years of 21 years of Bond, and it's Roger Moore's, is in Octopussy with that amazing little jet. Again, a memory I love, that amazing little jet that comes out the back of the horse box. And the scene where the Range Rover drives by and the lady's showing her leg to the soldiers, and then as it goes up further, you got Roger Moore holding the gun. But yeah, I had that as a corgi car, little toy. Had the little Range Rover. My auntie got it for me for Christmas, and my twin brother. And you had the horse box, and you had the horse's ass that hung over the back of the box, and you could pull it down, press a button, and the jet would come out with the wings folded, and you could pop it down, which was a real jet. Again, a great moment in that movie is the fact that he goes to the petrol station there. But yeah, I had that, and it was absolutely fantastic. And yeah, I just remember the adverts. Me and my brothers just thought, because you don't understand how, I'll get to the point in a minute, how people age and stuff like that, which was, we just went, yeah, Bond's 21, which is, as an adult, the complete opposite of what Bond is. He's a matured veteran, in MI6. But and then things, because it was such a big part of my childhood, and when Corgi made the full size cars, you had the one from you had the Sean Connery one with the ejector seat and stuff like that, which I had. Then I've still got it. I should have got it because it's in the other room. The Corgi one where you had the Lotus and the wheels were covered up, but you pressed a button, the fins came out and you could put matchsticks in the back when you lost your rockets and press a button and launch them up like that. I had that, and I remember that, because it was one Christmas in my grand's original house, and she didn't have time to wrap it for whatever reason. I think it was because it was so difficult for her to get, because this is, right, this is roundabout Star Wars-ish, but it's, it was still, that didn't mean Star Wars dwarfed it. It was still the toys that you had to have as a kid. And so obviously it was quite difficult to get, so she got it for the last minute. And I just remember we had Christmas dinner, and my gran said, go next door into the study and get your Christmas presents, and they just had names on it. And I had the DB5, and she taped the boxes together, and I had the Lotus on top of it, and I was chuffed. That was it. That was me playing, for days with that car. Like I said, it's, this is just memories of, Roger Moore's Bond, and again, missing the actor already. And it's funny how these things impart, such an impression on you that you retain as you grow up, all these little memories that are associated to it. I mean, I had them for, Sean Connery, I had them for the other Bonds, but as I said, because Roger Moore was my Bond growing up, and with the toys and the products, again, mainly from Corgi, they're the ones I remember the most, and the memories I have. And I remember a few years ago, before, DVD and Asda were doing this, because I've always loved Bond, and, we had them taped and stuff like that. And to some degree as well, it's weird, when GoldenEye came out, that kind of kicked on the N64, that kicked in people's interest in Bond again. But I just remember that Asda did this offer, because they released all the, and I used to have this on VHS, and it was all across in my my bookshelf at the time, so you could see all the Bond characters and names and faces and all the relevant actors who played them going across all the VHSs. But Asda did this offer where you could get two for the price of one, and it would only last for 2 weeks, and that's when I completely caned my wages at the time to get all these VHSs, and had the full Bond set of the time. I think it went up to The World Is Not Enough. I'm not sure, but again, the ones I watched of that, and you might say there was a nod, nostalgia and retro, stuff. A nod of N64 GoldenEye in that again, which was I had to watch Moonraker, and then that comes back to what I'm talking about, because Moonraker featured the NASA space shuttle before it actually was launched, wasn't it? Right, they changed it. You had like the yellow on the wings for the Bond villains, insignia or whatever. But that was another toy I had as a kid, because you could get the Corgi toys of the mini cars, like the Roger Moore ones and the Sean Connery ones, small but big as well. And I had the big shuttle and I had the small shuttle, and yeah, it just, I mean, I actually have, when I worked as a labourer, and this is like late 90s, maybe 98, so I think around about the time of when Glenn Hoddle was running the England team, and I was working in a house when pulling up floorboards, and I pulled up a couple of old newspapers, and it actually had, when they were announcing that, Roger Moore is stepping into the shoes of, this has only just been confirmed and signed, Roger Moore is stepping into, I've got to get this framed now, stepping into the shoes of Sean Connery, who's now, stepped down as James Bond. And just, like again, that just reminded me of what big part Roger Moore's Bond was of my childhood. And yeah, it just, and other things like Live and Let Die, that's a more serious Bond movie, probably because it was coming in the tales of Sean Connery, but, the fact that the amazing, excuse me, Paul McCartney soundtrack and things like that. It seems wherever I look, when I think about Roger Moore, there is a memory or a tale I could tell you of my childhood, and I wouldn't change that, I wouldn't change that in a heartbeat, or, for anything, because it means I can remember him in a warm, fuzzy, and pleasant way. But that's when that someone who's departed, when people say, like, it's a famous person, why do you feel this way? Because to have this collection of memories, and they make me feel happy, and and smile, and every single one of them from my childhood is connected to a moment of Roger Moore, whether it be through toys, magazines, posters, and I had loads of posters. That's the sign of how someone truly does leave a mark on you, as a child, and as an adult. So I'd just like to say, my respects go to his family, than his friends, his loved ones, everyone who's close to him. But yeah, I have to say a massive, massive, rest in peace, Sir Roger Moore. You're an absolute legend. You were an absolute staple part of British cinema. A gentleman, a good actor, and yeah, part of my childhood. And I will miss you, so much. And to everyone else, I'd love to know, what your memories are of, Roger Moore. Your favourite Bond movie with Roger Moore. And just, growing up with him, if you're in my age group, as our Bond. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.